This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome, Speak Up listeners. Speak Up Effective Communication is the show on the Aftermarket Radio Network to help you develop your communication and leadership skills. And today's episode, we have a special guest with us that's going to help us take some of the concepts we've been discussing straight to the counter in your shop. So my guest today is Rui Martins with Evolve AD. And Rui, I have to say thanks so much for joining me today. It is a pleasure to get to talk to you in the course of our daily work, many occasions. So bringing your concepts to this audience is something I've been looking forward to for a while. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
So Rui, a little bit about you. I know you're hailing from the barren, cold north of Canada, right? Which province are you again?
I'm in Nova Scotia, which is actually in really good shape these days. It's New Brunswick is a little, and I'm looking at your window. I think you have a little more snow than I do. We don't have any snow.
It's actually not, and it looks like it from the light glare, but it melted just a couple days ago, and we're just going to get another dusting, and it's probably going to melt again before Christmas. Bummer. I know.
We're in the same boat.
No, see, you know this too, as those of us in the north know. The snow is actually kind of nice for a while because it brightens up those dark nights. Well, hey, thanks for joining me again, Rui. And let me preempt this conversation here. Rui has some concepts that play very well with things that we've been discussing here on the podcast for several weeks now. Concepts related to digital communication, even. Concepts related to what I've termed as the client relating capability of our shops. And I think that this is just going to tie in some things with some actual strategy for a role that Rui has talked about before with Carm Capriotto on Remarkable Results Radio. So Rui, that was episode number 922 when you did that with Carm. That was, when was that? That was January 26th of this year.
Yeah, hard to believe it's that long ago already.
I know, this year's going quick. So I don't want to repeat the elements of that episode, but what the gist of it was is Rui and Carm discussed the role of the reservationist in auto repair, the role of the reservationist, a term, as Rui mentions, and we'll discuss again here, not a lot of people understand what it is, and then fewer understand how it works. So we're going to go into this.
Yeah, it's interesting, but when I was getting ready to talk about the reservationist role at this podcast, I started thinking, when did I start using it and how far back does it go? And when did I frame it as a role in the shop? And believe it or not, it was back in 1998. No word of a lie. 1998, I came to the determination that the role was needed, but back then I didn't understand I don't think I understood what I was doing necessarily, but I knew that the person needed to be that person to answer the phone, to coordinate the incoming traffic, to understand what was going to happen at the counter before the service advisor actually spoke to that client in the morning. And I started to sort of make that happen and to make it work. And it was, even back then, believe it or not, it was a need from, I just don't have a tree in the backyard that grows trained service advisors. What can I do to fill the gap between having a person fully trained at the counter, understanding the role, and having somebody who can handle, which is, sometimes basic information.
Before we go any further, folks, we're going to hear a word from our sponsors here who make this podcast possible. Thank you so much to all of these wonderful people. Ready to elevate your shop? Join the 2025 Institute Summit in sunny Amelia Island, Florida. You'll see unmatched speakers, actionable insights, and exclusive networking. For more information, visit wearetheinstitute.com/summit. Your partner in technology, AutoFlow is able to enhance your client interactions before, during, and after the visit from a single thread. To see how AutoFlow makes it simple, visit autoflow.com. Are you tired of juggling multiple tools to manage your auto repair shop? Say goodbye to the chaos and hello to streamlined efficiency with AutoLeap, the #1 all-in-one auto repair shop management software. With AutoLeap, you can sell more, save precious time, and delight your customers with every interaction. Your trusted companion, ShopDog Marketing, is right by your side, attracting the best customers and building long-term growth. Call ShopDog Marketing today or visit shopdogmarketing.com. Cover your communication need and revolutionize your auto repair business with AI-driven call analytics from Inbound. Explore more at callinbound.com. Okay, we're back. And Rui, you said something interesting. 1998 is when the term for the reservationist came into play. Let's just put this into context, folks. That's pretty much, it's pre-internet.
Yeah. In fact, it was so far back that when I sent the business cards to the printer and wrote reservationist as the title, they told me that word doesn't exist. It didn't. It's not a word. It's not a term that actually existed.
Yeah, I've heard it as a term in politics. As when I first Googled the term, that it came back as a term in politics for basically a group of party that had concerns about a policy that was being implemented. I have some reservations.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, hey, there's probably plenty to discuss on that in the world today too, but we're going to avoid that segment of the conversation and we're going to go in. Now, you said something very interesting in our introduction here. There's 3 things this person does: answers, coordinates, understands. I like each of that. So they're answering the phone calls, they're coordinating the flow of work, and they understand. Understand what?
Well, the understanding piece is, why is the client coming in? What's actually happening at the appointment? Are they needing a rental vehicle? Are they needing a shuttle? Do they need the vehicle back by 2 or 3? If you start to think about the amount of information processed before they even arrive at the counter, it's, in essence, looking at it later is a reason we fail or we break down in the shop, is because we didn't get that information correctly in the first place.
I teach a case study on it in one of my DVI courses that I do. And recently I started teaching a course on marketing or follow-ups, leveraging the DVI. We've talked on that topic a few times ourselves. And I have a whole sheet full of tasks that service advisors have. And one of them is gathering relational information. But this is not an area that a lot of people can do. And I demonstrate in my course with another slide the things that service advisors actually can accomplish when their client relating capability is reduced. Golly, understanding the client's needs, that's a relational piece. I think what we want to accomplish here today in this conversation is, what are some strategies that reservationists use in order to understand the client better?
I would say number 1 is understanding the visit. So understanding I like calling it the primary concern, or the primary reason the vehicle arrives. I think in your DVI, you guys hit it with the reason vehicle is here, reason the visit exists. So they need to understand that piece before they can start, using the permutations and combinations of what they need to think about before it comes through the door. One of the things, I used to look at a service advisor back in 98, let's go back to that, and the key punching of a keyboard with the 1-finger key punching and the time it took that advisor to get through the morning. And I'm thinking to myself, why are we wasting our time doing administrative tasks, key punching on a keyboard, when we should be discussing and building relationships with the client?
Same problem exists today, except it's me 1-finger punching on a mobile device.
It's no different today. And even if we were really good at typing and really good at using a keyboard, at the end of the day, we should be using that full 5-6 minute window of opportunity to build a relationship and understand what the client is there for.
Absolutely. One of the recent episodes I did on the client relating capability, I cite an article by George Day. And in that article, he sort of says out there that to differentiate yourself, it doesn't have much to do with your CRM tools or technology. So 98 versus 2024, 2025, it's not about the technology. The differentiator is how you're relating with the people. And that, I think, has all sorts of new capital in the world today. I've talked on AI and all these other things, and AI is supposed to help us do, I don't know what they've clarified. That right now it's imitating our communication, I feel like, but it's not freeing us up yet to do the relating. It's trying to do the relating for us, I think, is where my big gripe with that really is. I guess the questions I would say, all right, we have these advisors. Instead of doing this administrative type of punching in of simple data, we're not connecting and having conversations with the clients. When we are connecting with the clients, what's that look like?
The advisor piece or the reservationist connecting with the client?
Oh, hey. So that's the right question. Because right now, most shops, that's one person. That's one role. It's all in one. And so you hit on something else that I think is worth discussing. where does one role end and where's the other begin?
Let's use a loaner vehicle. The reservationist collecting the driver's license, collecting the insurance piece, making sure that the rental contract or the piece that we're using for a loaner agreement is in place. If you think of return on investment on that from a position in the shop, generally the administrative individual might have a lower income than a service advisor position. But that has progressed in my theory too, because that individual is every bit as important as the service advisor, important, leading to what they're talking to with the client. So if they're collecting that information, and that's what we're putting on the service advisor to do, then the service advisor doesn't have time to talk future maintenance, doesn't have time to talk about current maintenance, tire size, the conversations of Bob, my previous mentor.
Bob Greenwood, yes, my coach and good friend. Oh, yes.
Bob Greenwood, yes. Bob would say, we are in the education business. We're in the communication business. And how can a service advisor communicate and discuss and build relationships if we're trying to collect driver's licenses and collect this information? And that's where the reservationist kicks in and does that role. The building of the work order, the starting up of the work order, the writing down the complaint part. We've traditionally know over the years, the service advisor likes to get to the repair part. They want to push that thing forward.
I want to help you get this fixed.
Right. Time frame constraint, right? Like I don't have time to type all of what you just said to me. So I'm going to go straight to trying to understand what it is the tech needs to know. So the advisor isn't in the place to collect the information. So the reservationist is. The reservationist collects those comments, the client says something like, and by the way, I have to be at the hospital at 2:00 because my son needs to have the cast removed. Well, that's important information on a work order or on a piece of paper. That's not necessarily what the service advisor is thinking about collecting. But those conversations are important. The other thing to really think about is most appointment reservations happen on the phone. They're phone communication. So I think we need to understand, being a communication podcast that we're doing here, we need to understand that role, because body language being 70 some odd % of communication doesn't exist on the phone. So you need to be a pretty good communicator by tone and words alone to be able to speak and communicate properly over the phone. So that person needs to hone in on those skills.
Oh, that is a great point.
Yeah, the service advisor is a body language individual who can speak face-to-face with the client. That's a totally different role. Completely different.
It is a totally different role. Oh, I love this, Rui. See, all right, there's a couple things, and I want to back up a little bit because Rui mentioned something I wanted to mention at the beginning as well and neglected to mention. Rui, you're the living legacy of my coach and friend, Bob Greenwood, who unfortunately passed away in 2021. Yeah, I can't believe it's a little over 3 years now on that. You guys worked together for a long time. So I remember when I first met you, I didn't know that. You started mentioning things that I had only ever heard Bob teach. I had never heard from you before. Gosh, we were onboarding a shop on some digital platforms there with AutoFlow. And I said, do you know Bob Green? Know him? Of course. Yeah. And that came out that was really interesting though, because I recognized it first through the alignment of ideas. And that is a rare, rare, rare thing. But then you also mentioned here, the reservationist getting this information and putting it into the advisor's hands. This is, I think, where the first breakdown occurs. Because a lot of times, and this will harken back to the client relating capability concept we discussed in a previous episode, in order to have an organization-wide capability of relating, you need to be able to use data seamlessly between departments and putting this someplace where someone is accessing it. Having that expectation established that this person is getting, this person is using or receiving and understanding as well. That has to happen interdepartmentally, and that's internal communications as well. So you mentioned the verbal skills over the phone. We've talked about body language, but now we're also talking about internal organization structure so that communication can happen with important pieces of data.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, to carry that thought a little further, just the concept of the fact that in front of the advisor in the morning, you would ask the question, where does one role begin? Where does one role end? If you think a client calls us to book an appointment, just think of the psychology behind that. They are in a position where they have time. They've taken the time to make the phone call. Therefore, they're in control of this phone call. So now as a reservationist, I'll actually probably spend more time with that individual than the advisor is going to spend with them in the morning when they're in a hurry to get to work or wherever they're headed on the pass through. Because a shop run properly isn't running a waiting client appointment shop. They're having people drop the vehicle off and then continue on. So their movement is through the building pretty quick. So the reservationist actually has the most amount of time to ask proper questions. So those things we want the advisor to do in a controlled environment with only 3 minutes of opportunity, 5 minutes of opportunity, the reservationist will often be given way more leeway to ask the questions properly and get it right when they come through the door. So the advisor is then prepared, like you said. Now, that transition of information, where does that get put? How does it get presented to the advisor? And what does the advisor do with it? That's, process in the building that has to be done properly. But the reservationist continues to be the collector of all this. And we continue not to have enough time in our day to continue to push all of that onto the service advisor. So there's things that get dropped and not done.
Yeah, advisors can be interrupted in a number of ways. So let me think this, because you said something here that's interesting, that a lot of people are calling for appointment. One of the big pushes today is for online appointments to becoming automatic without even a conversation. Someone's reserving the time in the shop for a specific service and it goes onto a calendar page and is being received. Now, is this conceivably the role of a reservationist to look for these inbound appointment requests?
Absolutely. And there's a considerable amount that are simple, basic appointments that are being booked and brought in, especially if it's an ongoing long-term client where the relationship's been established and we know the ins and outs. But a first-time client booking online, we understand the limitations. We look at the appointment. The client doesn't even understand what they don't know. So they're typing in things that we require more information to. And the reservationist will reach out. I've received your online appointment, right? To me, it's an opportunity to collect the quick collection of data, name, address, phone number, or name, phone number, reason. And then the reservationist says, blah, 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 and continues on. And the blah, blah, blah part is the same as you needing an appointment with a specialist. What's the first thing you do when they sit down is a conversation, asking questions and trying to establish that whole thing. The booking was done by somebody else just to get you in front of that person. We're pushing that to say, let's train the reservationist to be a semi-service advisor. Quite frankly, the reservationist in today's world for me is doing what an advisor did 20 years ago anyway. That pre-setup of the work order, the pre-questioning, what they were doing in that conversation, what I'm asking the advisor to do today is to build a relationship, discuss the vehicle, talk to the client, understand what it is they're looking at. Is this a primary driver? Is it a third vehicle? In Alberta, is it a farm truck car that just sits in the farm all day and it just needs to be run around there? If we don't understand those, we don't understand how to maintain and look after the vehicle.
Those are really good at this role. Getting those types of, I would call it almost like an interview question in a relational way. Like no one wants to sit down with a list of questions and just do one thing after the other with those sort of questions. There's some dynamic, flexible nature for how that conversation should be constructed to get as much information as you can. I always talk about calibrated questions, those open-ended questions that are just designed to get people talking about their use of the car. And then I take notes.
Listening, not hearing. We can get into those types of topics. Like hearing what the client says is one thing. Actually paying attention and listening and being able to decipher what's being said is a totally different conversation.
What sets the best shops apart? It's their commitment to growth. At the 2025 Institute Summit, you'll learn from industry-leading speakers, participate in powerful breakouts, and discover the secrets to standing out in today's competitive landscape. February in Amelia Island, Florida is where you need to be. Reserve your spot now at wearetheinstitute.com/summit. Don't miss out on rubbing shoulders with the best in the industry. It's time for today's Suck Less Spotlight from AutoFlow. Today's spotlight is on advisor eye twitches. Listen, clients like to stay informed throughout the repair process, and studies indicate clients are most satisfied receiving text updates versus phone calls. But call you they will interrupting everything from estimating to quality conversations and your game of solitaire. That is, unless you text them first using AutoFlow. With AutoFlow's automated text updates, your phone only rings for the right reasons. That way, with less phone interruptions, your eye twitch will definitely suck less. For this and more things that could suck less, visit AutoFlow.com. Are you tired of juggling multiple tools to manage your auto repair shop? Say goodbye to the chaos and hello to the streamlined efficiency with AutoLeap, the #1 all-in-one auto repair shop management software. With AutoLeap, you can sell more, save precious time, and delight your customers with every interaction. How? By harnessing the power of cutting-edge technology that brings you real-time actionable insights. From scheduling appointments to creating estimates, generating invoices, managing technicians, and seamlessly syncing with QuickBooks to keep your records updated, AutoLeap does it all for you. Visit AutoLeap.com and book a demo today. Looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Trust ShopDog Marketing to be your reliable companion with AI-powered customer-first marketing, websites, and high-ranking local search. Maximize your reach with our mobile-first and voice search expertise. Car counts are like ice cream. Sweeten your revenue with ShopDog Marketing. Grab our free guide to learn how AI can drive more repair orders every day. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit ShopDogMarketing.com. Every professional auto repair shop needs a trusted communication partner. At Inbound, our established VoIP platform is backed by years of industry experience, guarantees reliable connections, and is combined with cutting-edge AI-powered analytics. We deliver actionable insights that support your business growth. With Inbound, you get more than just calls. You get a smarter, more efficient operation. Get Inbound on your team today and see how we can transform your business. Visit callinbound.com. I'd be curious to know if there's any specific types of questions, like someone who's new to being the reservationist, different types of questions that you encourage those people to ask.
You know, interestingly enough, when I'm teaching a class, I will moderate this reservationist and I fake it out. I make a role play exercise out of how does it look like when I hire a brand new reservationist, day one in the building. And I look at the class and I say, I have 15 or 16 experienced service advisors / owners in the room, but I've also have 4 or 5 bookkeeper accounting personnel that came to the class to understand the numbers. And those people are not at the forefront of the shop. Guess what? In the next 10 minutes, I can assure you that I can make those 4 people the best reservationists in the room, and the other folks will not even be close, not even close. And the reason is because they will take instruction on what it is we need to ask, what questions need to be asked. And I'll put what I call a reservation form. So yes, I'm a big fanatic on the technology, but what about a piece of paper that actually has the questions laid out visually, like a calendar that you can just circle the date? Like that would be a nice little thing instead of writing February 22nd, 2025, 3 p.m. Why not just circle the date and put a time, like with a pen.
Oh, that would really work for me, having a slip of paper to circle that, because then I visualized in the month and the week and the day where it is all. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, that's a good tip.
If I sit in that room and I say to the reservationist, what I'm asking you to do is take this 8.5 by 11 page, start at the top left-hand corner, work your way across the top line to the right hand, and just go step by step, field by field, and ask exactly the questions that are on the page until you get to the midpoint. And there's a reason for the midpoint, but until you get to the midpoint, and just stop there and let's see where we're at for what you've collected for information. I pass that out. Guess what the long-term people do? The long-term folks in the shop will take that piece of paper and use it more or less as scrap paper. They turn to their buddy, right? They turn to their buddy and they say, so when are you coming in? So tell me about what's wrong with your car. So tell me this, tell me that. All the questions that are in their head inherently over the last...
Habitual questions that we're used to. Yes. Oh my gosh.
And then they'll start looking for where to put it on the piece of paper. Where do I write that down? Where do I write that down? As opposed to the non-trained individual who is now starting at step one and just systematically going through all the questions. Are you leaving it or are you not leaving it? Are you waiting or not waiting? Do you need a rental vehicle or do you not need a rental vehicle? When did this start to happen? What is your primary concern? If you had a secondary concern, what would that be? Those types of questions. And all of a sudden, you have a person who's never done that job before with a sheet filled with data. And then I have a person who's done it for 20 years with Martin's 3:00 on Thursday.
Yeah. See, I'm the latter in that I'm totally guilty of being that guy. Oh, yeah. It's in here. It's locked up in the brain. I've got some details, but oh, brother.
Because what's important? What's important is once that client arrives and the car, the vehicle, the truck is in the building, getting that into the shop and handling the repair piece, handling the logistics after it arrives, that's what we're there to do. That's what we want to get to immediately, not the preparation work. In essence, if we look at a construction site, it's the same thing. I could never be the framer. I want to be the guy that puts the wall plate on the plug and says, look how beautiful that house looks. It's the last step. So where do we sit in the role? Are we the infrastructure or are we the painters and the designers? I feel like the service advisor should be the painter, designer, and the reservationist should be the infrastructure.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So, all right, I'm grasping the difference of the roles a little bit more. You have a structure for how that conversation goes that I'm kind of curious, like, where do you teach this class? Do we have to go to Canada for this? Is this something that you do in the States?
Right now it is Canada. I've primarily focused in Canada. Bob and I, when we were working together back in 2016, 17, Bob used to do a lot of the work down through the US. He had contacts down there and he did a lot of that. My systems have broken over COVID, Craig. The live classroom training was disappeared, but I am still a true believer of live classroom training. I think it's a totally different dynamic. I think that this industry, you said visual, I can probably count on my hand the amount of people I know in this industry that aren't visual learners, that aren't, people that need to be seeing what's happening and understanding and connecting. The human connections are huge. So doing it on Zoom is okay, but paying attention to a 1-hour session, let alone an 8-hour session, is impossible. But yes, right now, all over Canada, I mean, in the new year, I'm doing a session in Calgary. I'm doing a session in Edmonton. I'm doing Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. So that it is in Canada, but I'm wide open to travel. I like the US. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a little warmer down here in some parts of the year too, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take it from here. We talked a little about before the visit, really. The appointments come in such a variety of ways. Appointments can come in now, but either way, it's being fielded by that reservationist. And they're setting them up.
Yeah. And, if you ask the question, is it easy to train a reservationist? How difficult is it to have them understand how our shop works? That's another conversation, probably for another time for you and I. But I will say that I can also teach someone how to book a shop properly as opposed to booking time for technicians. The grid, the techs are across the top, the times are down the side.
This is the struggle I face daily. I meet shops that are scared to do online scheduling because they're afraid of either overbooking, underbooking, or the others. And what they end up aiming for is they start trying to have an online booking system start to manage the bay, that it'll fall into the right time for that vehicle to go into the bay, because they're terrified. And maybe this is true for some of our listeners too. I remember this fear as well. They're terrified of that upset customer who believed that the work was going to begin at that appointment time. It's a fundamental flaw in our approach, I feel like. And this is something that you have touched on, because it is not the bay time. It's not the tech time.
Let's start by taking the terminology of appointments and reservations and putting them in the same sentence with shop loading.
Shop loading. That's a term.
Those are two completely different things. I was working on a project earlier today where I'm looking for the words and I'm saying, okay, if we go to a hotel, we book a room. If we go to a restaurant, we book a table. So if we go to an auto repair shop, what is it that we're booking? And I cannot tell you, if I ask that question, 98% of the answers were booking bays. We're booking bay time. The real answer to the reservations appointment is that we're booking a time slot with the service advisor to drop off the vehicle and discuss the vehicle with the service advisor. Then after that, we begin to look at how do we logistically handle this vehicle in the shop And that's called shop loading. That has nothing to do with appointments. That's why we can train the reservationist so quickly, because the reservationist isn't worried about how much time does it take to do a timing belt, how much time does it take to do, because we're just blowing darts at a board anyway.
And how do you even know those things need to be done anyways?
We don't have any idea.
No one knows until the car comes in what it needs.
No, and we take stabs in the dark, and then we saying, oh, my shop, every 3:00 in the afternoon, there's guys standing around doing nothing. Yeah, because we're taking guesses, and the guesses are wrong all the time. I do know one thing. I know how many vehicles I need in a day to get the right vehicle count into my building per day. And I call that inventory. I need vehicle inventory.
Those are good terms for our listeners.
Vehicle inventory.
Vehicle inventory.
That needs to be in the building every day to be able to reach my numbers.
And that's all you have to train the reservationist to understand. Just what that number is. And if you know how many cars are coming in that day, you know how many more appointments you can take reasonably, that the advisors can load balance.
And the questions that always come up is, oh, what happens with the 8-hour job? What happens with the 9-hour job? Well, those are reestablished into the shop. So we need to more or less rebook those back in, not rebook necessarily 3 days later, but reschedule back in the shop to make it work. If a client comes in today and you've got a 12-hour job to do, you can't expect that 12-hour job to be done at 5 p.m. And I think that expectation is then handled with the advisor and the client. And then, of course, we have strategies and tools to deal with that. Do we have loaner vehicles? They have transportation during those days. But the reality is, if I take vehicles away, so the question comes up, the owner looks at the reservationist and says, oh, Thursday is really busy because I've got 2 head gasket jobs to do. So slow down your bookings. What you're actually doing is slowing down the inventory, and you won't have enough vehicles by the time the end of the month comes around to put the time back on your schedule.
No, I see this mistake all the time. It's like, hey, we need to turn off our marketing or whatever. We have enough vehicles right now. It's like, okay, well, the issue's going to come the other way.
It's a very simple position to train well and quickly. It takes 2 weeks for them to get used to your shop dynamics a little bit, but they're doing very systematic work. How many vehicles a day am I allowed to book? How many waiters do I take? Some people take 2 waiters in the morning. Some take 2 waiters in the afternoon. Some don't do waiters at all. So those dynamics need to be worked on a little bit, but it's a position that is quickly handled. At the beginning, I say use pen and paper, get away from the computer. Because again, what this slows down the individual isn't the ability to have a communication and a conversation with the client. It's the ability to work the fields and the screens and the keyboards. So get away from all that, communicate, talk, and write it down. Then when the conversation's over, go back to the machine and transpose that data to the advisor.
No, I see people trying to fit their conversations into the fields on the screen all the time. Interesting.
And that's the same as DVI, by the way, because when we train a technician, we train him to do a DVI. We don't tell him, keep inspecting the vehicle the way you have been for the last 20 years. All of a sudden, the individual's looking at the lines and going one line at a time.
Oh, it kills me. Yeah, do your routine around the car, then go put the data in. My goodness. Okay, so we've taken all this information in. This reservationist has now helped the shop with its loading by having a certain amount of cars in our vehicle inventory. The advisor's role in the conversation is focused then on what?
The advisor is focused in on things like, does the vehicle need to be maintained with quality, high-level parts? Does it need to be maintained with B-level parts? What are we doing here? What is it? How are we maintaining this vehicle? A person who's driving 6,000 miles or kilometers a month doesn't need the same or does need different maintenance than somebody who's driving 20 kilometers to the grocery store every week. So those are the understandings. If somebody living in Michigan has a different maintenance requirement than somebody living in Phoenix, Arizona. But guess what? The little white book in the glove box is the same.
It is. Yeah.
The supposed Bible that's in the glove box is the same, but we need to take different approaches. So that's where the advisor is now using their influence, their understanding. Should we be looking at tires today? Should we not be looking at tires today? Imagine an advisor going to the file of the client the day before at 3:00 in the afternoon and reviewing the docket to say, what is that client coming in for tomorrow? and actually having an action plan to discuss with the client. I've noticed through the history.
You mean kind of like a technician who has to understand the vehicles coming in if they're going to have an action plan for diagnosing a problem on a vehicle they're not familiar with? All that, I like this concept, Rui.
Absolutely. So that's the role of the advisor. They are the forefront of, and in that sense, people will often ask me, would you hire somebody with experience, or how do you find somebody with that kind of experience? I'm saying, no, you need somebody who is able to communicate, somebody who's able to speak with the client, the mechanical part, the understanding the car part. And you'll have many, many owners that'll turn around and say, that person needs to know a car inside out to be effective. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly disagree. What they need to do is be able to communicate the message. See, if in the back, if you've taught your technicians to not use responses to the DVI questions that are proactive. So give me the results that I need. It's not just battery's bad. It's battery needs to be replaced based on results, or battery needs to be recharged based on results, or same level as it's been for the last 6 months. Let's monitor and keep an eye on it. Things like that are the messages that need to be put out. If that gets pushed out to the advisor properly, the advisor can communicate with the client without any issue.
Well, what's so interesting on this too, Rui, is as you're describing this, I see a lot of shops go the other direction where they're trying to turn their technicians into part-time advisors with some of the notes and details and the prioritization and making them responsible effectively. And what that does is a production killer to actual productive work in the shop, because now we're trying to turn this technician, who's in all likelihood not a communication specialist themselves, translate these things. I'm hearing with the reservationist role, where instead of splitting a technician into a partial advisor, we're splitting the advisor up a little bit by adding a different role. And the advisor gets to focus on, basically interpreting the vehicle condition into the needs that have been identified. It's a beautiful cycle.
They need to massage the DVI. They need to make sure the pictures are in order. They need to make sure that the Moto Visual's photograph or video is attached to the line so that the client can understand.
You mean all the things that people say that take too long, and so they never do?
Well, they do take too long. They take too long because the advisor's doing reservations.
Too busy. He's just doing the reservationist role. Bingo. Yeah. So now, of course, people will think, well, great. In order to adopt something like this and do more quality, I need to add another position to my shop.
4 points for a reservationist to get right on a work order. Now, just as I don't know, is it a joke? Is it not a joke? I can tell you, if I go and audit this across the shops, you'd be surprised at what you see. But number one, collect the correct phone number. This seems pretty simple, but don't think so. Spell the client's last name properly, offer proper directions to the facility, and collect proper mileage or kilometers. I don't understand. How can we look after a vehicle based on mileage if we have a culture that generally misses collecting mileage? I just don't get it. And we'll say, we get it all the time. No, you don't. Can I add 4 more to that real quick while we're on the topic? Might as well. Collect email addresses.
You will just have won over so many shop owners and some of our corporate colleagues and everyone else. That is not happening in a lot of shops these days. They think email's dying. It is not.
It is not. Devin is my IT guy. He's got a CRM system that focuses on deferred work and proper deferred work send out. Like, I might not want to send out deferred work for an air filter because the client said no 2 days ago. But I do want to communicate with that person about a ball joint that's about to fall out of the vehicle from a safety concern. I think deferred work, like you guys call it rainy day folder, but that works as long as we're sending out the right information, not just throwing a bunch of crap at the wall, because clients get tired of that, right?
Yeah. Well, you threw out a couple terms there, deferred work versus the folks here at AutoFlow would call the rainy day folders just DVI based findings, but deferred work is anything estimated that did not get approved. And boy, that can be junk data sometimes too.
Yes.
Interesting. So that was number 6.
Assure you know if the client is waiting or leaving the vehicle.
Yeah. I've made faulty assumptions on this in my career. And yeah, dude, literally, Rui, a guy needed like a wheel hub replaced, and he started sitting down. It's like to wait for this thing. We didn't even have the hoist ready yet for the vehicle, and the part was still on the way, and who knows if it's going to be right and all the things. Yeah, I said, this could be 4 hours. So that's fine. Like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, just one more. Use tea time.
Sounds British, Rui.
Tea time? No, TEE time.
What's it stand for?
Golf tea times.
Oh, okay.
Right? So here's the concept. 2 things that would make our industry just so much better. One is booking an appointment for a client and the client actually arriving at the time of the appointment, right? That's important. However, golf, think about it. We can't make it happen in the auto industry. But I don't know, anybody who's ever played golf in their life, if you show up 2 hours early for your tee time, you're waiting 2 hours to play golf. And if you show up 20 minutes later, you might not play golf that day. It depends on how you can get squeezed in or not. You learn that tee time is important and you arrive at the right time to play golf at the tee time.
Now, granted, golfers know what to expect when they arrive. Do clients?
A reservation, right, exactly. So a reservationist's role is to make sure the client understands what their appointment time is for. An appointment to see the advisor is a tee time appointment to see the advisor. That's one topic. The other topic that I don't understand in our industry is pre-booking clients for their next visit. Any person that has ever had an appointment for their hair gets booked for the next appointment for their hair. I say person because I don't want to differentiate female from male, but the females absolutely understand that today you do your hair, you get your next booking, or you might not get in for a while.
I use the dentist analogy all the time on that same point.
Dentist is a great concept too.
Yep. I call this exit scheduling.
So why is it so hard for us?
I'll say the reason why it's very hard is we're used to it failing most times. Like 70% of the time is the statistic I've heard and I feel is true outside of any other further scientific analysis. 70% of the time you will fail to actually secure an appointment in the automotive space, at least. And dentist is 100% successful in my experience. I don't leave without that happening. I might not be able to get back into the dentist without a 3-month wait if I don't do this. The same fear isn't there for shops. And so customers figure they can do last minute stuff, or they'll just look for another shop that is open.
So we're not in control of the process, right?
Yeah, you lose control.
Because I think a reservationist should be touching base with that client 2 weeks prior to that appointment and trying to lock down and confirm. So you have a 2-week window to communicate and get out to that client and confirm and lock down that pre-booked appointment. We're expecting you on this day. Does that still work, or should we book that around something else? And I think I could convert that the other way. In shops I've worked where we've done that, we're at a 70 to 80% success rate on that. We can make that work. It's 30% that don't, but the ones that are committed, the second time, third time visitors are committed to your shop. All they're looking for is a little bit of gap there. Thursday might not work, but let's do Wednesday, let's do Friday, that kind of communication.
Now, Rui, we've talked on this topic before, you and I, on missed appointments. So the reservationist is part of their job to take care of any missed appointments, reach out to the customer?
Absolutely.
How does that work for you? You had a really good strategy I'd love to hear you mention.
Within 5 minutes to 10 minutes of a missed appointment, I think we should reach out and ask the client if they're safe.
I love it. Why? Why is that your question for them?
Well, because one, it highlights how quickly, 5 to 10 minutes afterwards, highlights that appointment times are important in your building, and you're reinforcing the paying attention part. Second is I have been caught in more or less having a tone as to, where are you kind of thing. And to get back the answer that my husband just passed away a few hours ago and we need to, that kind of thing. From that day forward, I said, I can never ask that question the same way. Or it's you live in Michigan or Nova Scotia and 10% of the vehicles are in ditches in the morning on the snowstorm. So you actually want to ask the question, are they safe or not safe? And the answer comes back generally to, yes, I am. I'm sorry, I'm late, because it's playing on the emotion of the individual. One thing I will suggest for viewers to do or listeners to do is take 2 appointments a day, multiply it by your average repair order count, repair order dollars. So if it's 700 repair order, 800, multiply 2 missed appointments a day over a year. And I think you're going to get a little scared at the $500,000, $600,000 number that's going to come back at you. And then realize that maybe it is important to have a process for missed appointments.
Well, that just justified the position that we're suggesting they add to their shop. I think it will pay for itself.
And we haven't discussed the second half of the game yet, because the first half of the game is what we've been talking about from the reservationist. The second half of the game is that person's role starts when the client closes the invoice and leaves your building. Begins the coming back part, the return visit, the CRM portion of the second half of the game.
Oh, this is a topic I love, Rui. Will you come back and do part 2 and discuss the end of the visit role of a reservationist?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's going to be a good one. We will have to begin the New Year season still with, I think, part 2 for this conversation. Absolutely. This is really fun stuff, Rui, and I appreciate you sharing some of your wisdom on this. I really do want to get up there into our neighborly north and see one of your classes sometime. So we're going to have to figure that out.
Sounds good. I like it.
Oh my gosh, that'd be a ton of fun. Rui, any other things, at least before, during the visit, you want to top off your statements on here for our listeners?
I will throw in, and I know I spoke to Carm a lot about this topic, but I will throw in this thought that if you're a multi-shop organization, a remote reservationist might be an interesting concept. One person doing 2 shops, one person doing 3 shops.
It's so good. Yes, this is totally possible. So, folks, I'm going to stress this again. Now, we appreciate, obviously, all of our listeners, and we do want you to remember there are other shows on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Carm Capriotto's Remarkable Results Radio, episode number 922 is going to be the one with Rui Martin. The title of that episode is The Role of the Reservationist in Auto Repair. I think it's a really fruitful conversation with Carm that will play perfectly with this conversation for you as well. And hey, while you're out there on remarkableresults.biz, check out the other shows on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Matt Fonslow's Diagnosing the Aftermarket, A through Z, Hunt Demarest, Business by the Numbers, and of course, Brian and Kim Walker's The Auto Repair Marketing Podcast, and Coach Chris Cotton's Weekly Blitz. So again, I will also say thank you so much to our sponsors. And man, thank you, Rui. Once again, it's a pleasure working with you on a sometimes daily, not daily enough, between our mutual clients and our conversations. I derive a great deal of fulfillment knowing there's other folks like you in this industry that value the communication skills of our advisors, of our reservationists, and the time of our technicians and shop owners. I think there's a better side of this industry that's coming about thanks to you. So, man, keep up the good work.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me out.
Oh, absolutely. And as always, listeners, remember to listen up before you speak up. Thanks for joining us today.
You've been listening to Speak Up, Effective Communication with Craig O'Neill on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Craig on your favorite podcast listening app and on his YouTube channel. Let him know what you'd like him to speak up about. Craig is all for advancing the automotive service aftermarket.